1. Let me preface this by saying I don't believe all security guards are brain dead. This one, well, he was a few crayons short of a full box. About 5 years ago, I was a long-haul truck driver specializing in food-grade oils, working for a company that gets mistaken for Amazon all the time. I was at my destination, Kraft Nabisco in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and getting ready to unload. I had my customary 5 boxes of free Oreos in my hand and was ready to dump them back in my truck when I noticed my top vent on the tank wasn't open. Well, that could be a disaster. So before I cracked the valves on the tank, I went up top and opened the dome lid. After setting the lid so it wouldn't close or blow open, I climbed back down to come face to face with Barney Fife. "Sir, you need to leave the premises. You're not allowed to climb on top of trucks." I was confused. Very. He had a high-vis vest with the trucking company name. My polo shirt had the company name, and I had on my work gloves and boots, both soaked through with oil. I gave him a look, then gestured to my logos. I'm the driver for this truck." Mike at the gate let me in, and Zach just started pumping the, "I've known every driver that's come in for the last 10 years. You've never been here before." Okay, except this is my 3rd time offloading here, 5th if you count the time with my trainer. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get unloaded, so I can get to the tank wash and shut down before I run out of hours. He took a step back, which I thought meant he finally understood. I proceeded to the cab and opened my storage door to grab the safety straps for my hose, which I had forgotten to attach, when he stopped me again. "Put that back before I call the police." I won't lie, I jumped, but apparently the delay in my opening my tank concerned Zach, and he came out to find Barney shouting at me, and me apparently looking like I was going to grab my big-ass wrench and unscrew his head. "Hey, what the fuck is going on here? I need that oil. Why are we just standing around yelling?" Well, that was enough for Barney, I guess, because he muttered something about never seeing me before, then turned and walked away to yell at someone else, I guess. I have no idea, and even to this day, don't really care where he went as long as it was away from me. I cracked the valves on my tank and sat, watching and waiting to make sure no leaks formed. It took about an hour, and I would have been good to go except my clock was down to 0. Due to Barney Fife and his 45-minute interrogation, I wouldn't be able to make it 2 feet, let alone the half hour or so to the tank wash. Thankfully, Mike in front let me sleep in their empty trailer lot. 2. My family is super fucked up, in a lot of ways. Not just one side of the family either. I am lucky enough that every single facet of my family is their own special kind of fucked up. Myself included. You don't make it through that gauntlet without a myriad of emotional scars and a few idiosyncrasies. So I thought I'd get started by telling the story of the family name. You see, my paternal grandparents, Nan and Pop, were strangely obsessed with passing on the family name. I never understood why. Never bothered to ask because I simply didn't care. I never met Pop's side of the family, so it's possible they all had a similar obsession. But in this day and age, succession and lineage in a dirt-poor family with no assets, from a shitty suburb of a shitty third-tier city in Australia, does not matter. My paternal grandparents had 3 children, male, female, male. Both of their sons met and married women with a previous bastard child. Their words, not mine. And we, myself and Emma, were always treated as less than because we didn't carry the family name. We were both tolerated to exist in the family, never truly a part of it. Our mums were also treated poorly because they dared to burden the family with unwanted, invalid children. Their daughter was the first to produce legitimate grandchildren, and for that reason they were favored, but they didn't carry the family name. So while they always held some favor, They lost a lot when my brother, Landon, the oldest male grandchild to have the family name, was born. He was the golden grandchild, the ultimate. He was honored, venerated, practically worshipped. And it was extremely evident to all us kids, even from a young age. Everything they did revolved around him. He was lavished with gifts, taken on holidays, pets were named after him, and birds were taught to say his name. I'm not even exaggerating. Dad, technically stepdad, but to me he is Dad, that's another fucked up family story for another time, went on to have another 2 children, my brother Daniel and sister Jasmine. Both were given his surname, but they too were less important, not as invisible as Emma and I were as bastards, but they weren't the heir to the family name. Dad's brother later fathered 2 girls, so his branch of the family tree was now considered Dad. Emma and I both had our surnames changed when our mums married our stepdads, which helped a little, but never very much. And even that vanished when Dad died. He and Mum had divorced about 2 years prior, and I was immediately ostracized, quite literally, the day he died. Nan called me and told me, "Ray's dead. You need to tell his children. I'm too upset to call them." No hello. Didn't even check that I wasn't standing in the middle of Target when she dropped the bomb. I then wasn't allowed to participate in any funeral planning or stay with them after I drove 14 hours to see them before the funeral. Nor was I named among his children in the newspaper obituary. They tried to not allow me to even sit with my siblings at the front of the church during the service. But my golden child brother was so devastated he was physically clinging to me for support, so they finally, begrudgingly, allowed it. During the service, and it was big, about 300 people, half of that was Dad's family, each of my siblings had been told they must get up and say something about Dad, but Landon just couldn't. He was sitting next to me sobbing when he was called up. He just looked at me and said, "I can't." So I read Landon's piece for him. Some of my maternal family had come with me for support that day. My auntie later told me that when I started walking up, one of Dad's aunts sitting near the back had said, "How dare she? She isn't even his child." My auntie leaned over and told her, "If you don't shut up, yours will be the next funeral we attend." I love my auntie. Afterward, my siblings saw how I was being treated and how toxic the grandparents were. There was a lot more that happened, but word limits and all. One by one, they went no contact with the grandparents too. Landon was the first, only 12 months after Dad died. Jasmine a year after that. They kept in contact with Daniel for a few more years. He had always been treated well, and now that the golden child had deserted them, he was more important to them. But even he went full no contact 6 years later, so they lost contact with both their name-bearing grandsons. Now for the parts of the story that bring me glee. Because the family name will die with my generation. Mine and Jasmine's sons have their father's surnames, and Daniel met a woman with 2 teenage children a few years ago, and they're happy with their own names. They will not have any more children. Landon married a woman who already had 3 children. They had a daughter together, who was given her mother's surname, so that she has the same name as her siblings. The funniest fuck you came from Emma. Her mum divorced herself out of the family before mine did. But like me, Emma stayed close with her stepdad and kept his surname, even after she married her wife a few years ago. They have a son, and gave him the wife's surname, because in Emma's words, "There's no way in hell I'm giving those anything they want." Alright, this word is very popular in Australia and Britain, but well, it doesn't do well in America. I'm sure you can work it out. Pop died 2 years ago, with no grandchildren bearing the family name. 3. I used to work for a veterinary practice as a receptionist, and I have had many, and I mean many, incidents where clients have been rude and entitled and even aggressive towards me. One of these incidents sticks to mind. The practice was being renovated, and so reception was moved into a very tiny room that fit only one staff and one client. This client comes in and asks for a specific flea treatment for his cat. I checked the account, and we needed an up-to-date weight for us to be able to give the correct dose. Unfortunately, we need an up-to-date weight since we haven't seen your pet recently, and the vet surgeon has given the okay for flea treatment. All we need is to either weigh your cat at home or come in for a free-of-charge nurse clinic to weigh. He's about 5 kilograms. I'm sorry, I need an actual weight, as the weight guidelines is up to 5 kilograms or over 5 kilograms, so I need to know to give you the right one. It's bigger than my other cat. Your other cat also needs a weight check. Just give me the larger one, over 5 kilograms. I can't do that, as it could be that we are overdosing. I want the larger one, because the last time it didn't work. And my consumer rights say that if you sell me a faulty product, you should refund me anyway. I check his notes, and the last time he had the CA was 6 months prior. They last 4 weeks and need to be repeated. Also, if it didn't work, why do you want it again? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Just give me what I asked for. I don't need some junior with an attitude who doesn't know the law telling me what to do. I actually have an undergraduate diploma in law. I studied it for 6 years and went to university for it. I had to drop out just before my final set of exams due to life-changing medical reasons. I'm sorry, I can't process this request until we have a correct up-to-date weight. I could just step out and pretend to weigh my cat and tell you a false weight. So why does it matter now? Great, now I can't trust you. Not that I did in the first place. I cannot process this. How come I can just go to any supermarket and buy some flea treatment from them, and they don't need to know my weight then? It is due to the fact that our treatment is prescription strength, which makes the product more effective than store-bought ones. That the ingredients are weight-specific can do harm if overdose. If we underdose, it won't do the desired effect. You just want more money from me, that's all you vets care about. We are literally not getting any more money out of him. Nurse clinic I offered was free of charge, and he could weigh his cat at home. I want to speak to a vet. I go get the vet. What seems to be the problem? I want CA, but she won't give it to me. We don't have an accurate weight. We need an up-to-date weight. Shocker, the vet agrees with the junior with the attitude. Same conversation I just had with the client now proceeds with the vet. Eventually, the client goes home, weighs the cat at 4.8 kilograms, and comes back. So if we had given him the larger one, we would have overdosed his cat. But that would never have happened, as we would simply refuse to dispense treatment. I just want to say that despite what some people think, the veterinary industry has these rules in place for the animal's safety, not for inconvenience or to get extra money. Simply so that we can get the right treatment to the animals. 4. So I just remembered something while talking with another disabled friend of mine who has had something similar happen. So I, 28, female, am the owner of a 1 terabyte iPad Pro 2020 I use for art and media, especially while I'm in the hospital, which is a lot nowadays. I tend to keep the tablet both password protected with an extremely long password and with Face ID for when it's hard to type my password. I also tend to keep the cases heavily sticker bombed. This is an important note for later. I was in a nursing home for physical rehab after a partial paralysis episode, and being in the hospital last year was being rolled back to my room after a session of occupational therapy when I heard someone struggling with their tablet. Being a bit of a techie when it comes to troubleshooting phones and tablets, I offered to help because, well, it wouldn't be the first time I did impromptu tech support while in hospital. Karen at first started to say, "Yeah, it would be appreciated because she..." got locked out of her kid's tablet she borrowed, but as soon as she saw me and was mid-word of the borrowed, she started to change her mind. That's when I noticed that the stickers on the case were exactly the same as mine. the EV sticker, the Bowsette stickers, and the dysautonomia awareness stickers. Some of them even made by friends that aren't available for sale anywhere. I pointed this out and she tried to get extremely defensive. The occupational therapist also recognized it as my tablet because the day before, I was using it during therapy, attempting to draw as part of therapy and showing off my art. She tried to hide the tablet, but the therapist stopped her and called security. After I'd showed security all the pics I had of my face, I got it back and the Karen just got a warning. Other patients were also mentioning tech of theirs being stolen, including somebody's tablet that they use primarily for talking. I hope she got more than just a warning after I left, and they were able to recover other people's stolen items. Included, which is being used as the illustration for this story, is one of my most recent pieces of art. 5. It's been a long time since I have had the privilege of watching some entitled jackass have a public outburst. But fortunately, I had a brief encounter the other day, which I would like to share as it brought me joy. The other day I was driving up the road with my father, heading to visit family for a few weeks as his summer vacation. However, before arriving at my family home, my father decided to nip into our local vape shop as he needed to stock up on liquids, coils, and various other bits and bobs. Plus, I needed new glass myself, so I figured why not. As we walked into the shop, we quickly moved into the queue to wait patiently for our turn. There were 7 of us in the shop. My father, the customer assistant, MacLeod, an elderly woman with her granddaughter, and 2 middle-aged men, one of whom was currently being served, Mr. Lawsuit. Something felt off about the atmosphere, though. As I looked around at the other customers, they were uncomfortable in their physical behavior, looking down at the ground and shooting brief glances towards the assistant and Mr. Lawsuit. My curiosity was piqued, so I decided to pay closer attention to the conversation between Mr. Lawsuit and MacLeod. As far as I understood, Mr. Lawsuit had been in previously to acquire a new tank for his vape and some vape liquid, and upon returning home to use his vape, the liquid had burnt out the coil and flooded his mod, causing it to no longer work. I think I'm not 100% on the details of this, but basically, he used the wrong liquid and it destroyed the vape. Now, MacLeod was not the person to previously serve Mr. Lawsuit, but he was very polite in walking him through the return policies and why the liquid he was using was not suitable for his chosen vape. Mr. Lawsuit insisted that he was not informed that the liquid he chose was wrong-suited for his vape, but MacLeod assured him that the staff knew what liquids were suitable for what vapes, and that he would have been told that the liquid was not suitable and could cause damage to the vape. After being walked through the information a few more times, it was clear that Mr. Lawsuit was beginning to get irate, his face a brighter shade of red and his expression akin to that of a child that is in the run-up to throwing a tantrum. Mr. Lawsuit exclaimed to MacLeod that this mishap was entirely their fault and he should be refunded in full and given a new mod as compensation, as his was no longer working. MacLeod calmly explained once that he could not do that as it was against company policy, and the damage was caused by Mr. Lawsuit and not the fault of the product itself. After a few more angry exchanges from Mr. Lawsuit, he let out one of those entitled sighs, shrugged, and smugly declared, "Well, it looks like I'm going to have to enforce legal action on this matter." Now, the other customers and I couldn't help but let out a dumbfounded laugh at this ridiculous statement, and we all smiled at Mr. Lawsuit as he angrily walked towards the door, following our laughter. Before exiting, however, he turned around and finished his moment of pure unreasonableness with, "I'm afraid you've left me no choice. Legal action it is." Again, this was met by laughter from everyone in the store. And as he walked away, discontent that he had not gotten his way, we all turned to look at MacLeod to see what he had to say about this. "Everyone okay?" "Yes," we replied and returned the question to him. "Honestly, I'm terrified. Legal action, oof. What am I going to do?" The perfect humorous retort from MacLeod. Honestly, he was nothing but civil and straight with Mr. Lawsuit, nothing but respect for him. Wish him all the best. As for Mr. Lawsuit, all I can say is I hope I'm present for your next unreasonable outburst, so I can once again have the opportunity to laugh in your face. Best of luck in all your future pursuits of legal action. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 66. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. If you have a story yourself you'd like to send in, then please do send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. That's, I know I do this twice every time, kingofthecities@gmail.com. It's an impulse. Say it twice to clarify it. And you can find that in the description. I'm getting tongue-tied. Maybe I need to rest my tongue. I need to stop blowing raspberries at people is what I need to do. And you can also send any other correspondence to that address, birthday shout-outs, business inquiries, recipes for lentil soup. Don't know why you would, but you could also send them there too. Alrighty, let's see. I think we're moving right on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. As we are now in the age of the Great Revival, as I like to call it, that I just made up right there, where every TV show that ever existed and was ever cancelled or finished its run is coming back. I'm sure there's something you've enjoyed in the past that no longer is in production you'd like to see make a return, with the cast all very, very old now. In my case, the show I'd like to see come back is the show Sliders, because it was a great sci-fi show, but traveling to alternate universes. It's very popular right now as well, so this would be a good time to do it. And I think it's a show that lost its potential the more it went on. There were still entertaining episodes, but essentially it got... there was enough disruption behind the scenes in the production of the show that two of the main cast members, including kind of like the main guy, it was Jerry O'Connell, left the show. Then eventually Sabrina Lloyd left the show, leaving only Cleavon Derricks. I got tears in my throat. Sorry, his character was a singer, and that was one of his songs. It's on YouTube; you can find it. And he was the only remaining cast member. He was the only one that kind of stuck it out. Which, respect to him. It must have been kind of weird. Being the only original member of the cast on the show by the end. But that show, Jerry O'Connell, who played Quinn, and Jonathan Rhys-Davies, who played Professor Maximilian Arturo, they had an idea what the show could be, and that's why they left it, because it changed too much. They're trying to bring the show back. Now, they don't own the rights, so there's a bit of an issue right now where I'll stop rambling in a minute, I promise. They're trying to figure out who owns the rights so they can then revive the show and make it what it had the potential to be originally. So that's my hope. My hope is that they will be successful. And what is a favourite show of yours that has been cancelled you'd like to see return in some form? Don't say Frasier, because that's already coming back. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.